Hi, everyone. This is Bob Sorrentino from Italian Roots and Genealogy. Be sure to check out our blog, our Facebook group, our newsletter, and our YouTube channel, and our great sponsors, Abitiva Casa, Italy Rooting, and Phil Italy. And my guest today is Rita Campolongo. And we've been Facebook friends for about 6 years, and we finally got around to doing this podcast. So welcome, Rita. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
So first question is, where's the family from in Italy, and when did they arrive in America?
Okay, my grandfather on my father's side was from Naples, and my grandmother um, was from Avellino.
Cool. Yeah, well, I think you know that my seventh and eighth and ninth great grandfathers were the princes of Avellino. So,
Yes, I do.
um, so
That's
that's
how we connected.
exactly. So, do you know, what brought them here, other than it was just the typical, diaspora and then, looking for a better life?
Yeah, I'm kind of a little, I kind of thought it was looking for a better life or being poor or anything like that, but I'm not really sure anymore because the more I find out about it, the family seemed affluent in ways. So I asked my husband, I said, well, I don't know why I did that, but I asked him, hey, do you have any idea why people came over in the early 1900s? Like, why did they come over if it's so beautiful over there? You know what I mean? I don't know a whole lot about history. I'm learning more about it and wars and reasons why people leave their countries. Um, and so he did a deep dive in AI and it came up with a list of reasons why people came over. But I'm still not 100% sure, to be honest with you. It was like around 1910. But they definitely came with not much money, according to the documents.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with my father's parents, because my grandmother came from the noble families. I can't figure out why. The only thing I could think of is that because nobody in her family came. There were only two people, her and her aunt. And the only thing I've said this before, the only thing I could think of is World War One was breaking out. She was a woman, of course, so she wasn't entitled to anything anyway, right? Uh,
Yes.
and her aunt was here, and from what I heard from one of my cousins is that descends from my grandmother's aunt, that her husband was some sort of entrepreneur or something like that. So the only thing I kind of think maybe happened is they said, "Well, come here, and we'll start you in a business, or we'll help you out, or whatever." But you know, like most of us, I never thought to ask anybody when I was 10 years old.
Exactly, until you're older and go, what did they say about this and that? Yeah, you
Uh,
get these memories
So what
of
got you
things that they
started
said.
in the research?
Well, it was, I believe, around 2007, and I saw an ad. You're getting a lot of ads for Ancestry.com that was real popular and doing your DNA. And I had always been curious about it, but didn't do it. But I finally did, like a 3-month trial or something like that. Or I think it was a 30-day trial, actually. I don't think they do that. Three months. And I just wanted to find out about local relatives, not even thinking it was possible to go back 1,000 years. That's how it's become when I found that my noble ancestor that connected way back, like you did. So I hadn't done the DNA yet. I just did the ancestry, and I just wanted to find people from my past that we had really lost connection with, and some of the names that my father had mentioned. So it was really just more about finding where they were right now. So I remembered some of the names that my father had always talked about, and it was a good way to get closer with my dad and talk about his family. And it led to finding people and being able to give them a call and leave them a message and say, "Hey, remember me from when I was little?" When I think the last time I might have seen some of these people was like as a teenager, and all back in New York. So I was in Texas or Savannah or different places. So uh, we had lost connection with a lot of people, and the uncles had all passed away. So
Yeah.
and
Yeah, well, that
eventually
kinda
the phone rang. and they were like, "Yeah, you know." So it was fun because me and my dad would connect about it and talk about it, and then I brought him to New York well, I was living in Jersey at the time, and he was living in Georgia. So he came up, and I took him on a genealogy tour. I brought him to see his cousins in Brooklyn that he hadn't seen in decades. I mean, massive, they were just like young and there they were right there in Brooklyn, and we had a big meal, and it was great. And we went to see the building where my dad grew up. We also we went to New York City and saw the building where he was born. So it was really fun, and it really connected us, got us closer, especially since he passed in 2012. So we were able to do that in about uh, 2009 together, and he really
Yeah,
enjoyed.
you my father he passed away in '97, and that was before I started doing things, so I have no idea what he knew, what he didn't know. I mean, the only his one of his sisters was still alive when I started, but by that time she really, she was on I guess, the early stages of dementia and stuff like
Yeah,
that. So I couldn't ask. So I don't even know what they knew when they knew it about the families and stuff like that. But I had my experience like that was my cousin I mentioned earlier, whose aunt was my great grandfather's sister. Her great grandmother was my great grandfather's sister. And, I found out not through Ancestry, she found me somehow on Facebook, and she said, "I think we're researching the same person,
nice.
Maria Piramalo," and I said, "Yeah." She said, "I think we may be related." I said, "Well, we are." I said, "Because Maria was my great-grandfather's sister." So she did Ancestry, and when she got the results, she said, "We're not a match." And I said, "That's impossible. We we have to be a match."
Oh,
I said, "I know we're a match." I said, "I know who these people are." I said, "Even forget the Ancestry thing." I looked at mine, and she showed up as a match to me. So now we have third cousins once removed, so, it gets hazy once you get into that thing. But she contacted Ancestry, and then somehow they figured something out, and now, we show up as a match. But the thing is, our families were so connected when, through from the 20s through, like, the 60s, but Linda and I never knew each other, and her grandmother lived, I don't know, like couple of miles from where we lived in College Point in Queens, and she lives right not far from where my aunts lived. But the funniest thing is my father used to refer to even though they were cousins, because she was older, my father used to refer to her grandmother as Aunt Beatrice. And when I got married to my first wife, I moved into my cousin's apartment on that because she was buying a house. And they lived like 4 or 5 blocks from Aunt Beatrice. Linda and I and her cousin Jean, we must have passed each other on the street countless times and didn't know we were relatives. That's how, so so now this was in the 70s. Now you get to 2018 and we're connected again. So I don't make a long story short. It was meant to be. You know what I mean?
it's funny because way back when I was a teenager, I was over my aunt's house. It was my Uncle Freddie's house, and his wife, my Aunt Linda, would say in her very thick Italian accent, which I'm not going to do, she would say, "If you see your cousin on the street, you can pass by and not even know who he is. You need to know your cousin." Because it's like you're saying, you pass by your cousin, you don't even know them. And she would say that, like, 'cause she'd want, the family to be close. It's
That's so
funny.
interesting. So,
Yeah.
what led you to finding out that you had the noble roots? What piece of
That is the
information?
craziest thing. And I wish my dad was alive to have seen, because it wasn't until about right at 2013 after he passed that I really started making that jump into expansive tree, because he always said we were probably farmers, you know, I think kind of downplaying his heritage. Maybe he isn't, but in my mind, I was like thinking you were poor if you were a farmer, but that's not really the case. You're a landowner,
Hmm.
so that's a big thing. So in my mind, I was thinking he was saying, "Oh, we were just probably poor," but maybe he wasn't. Because not that that's a bad thing or anything. I'm just saying that he was probably saying something I didn't really understand. So, like I noticed when you said in your book, the farmers, nobles, and something, I forgot the title of your book. So, I really that connected, in my mind when I saw your book. So, I can't remember the exact year, but one of my cousins I connected on Facebook, that one of the names that my father had always mentioned was my he'd call her his Zika Mel. He said Zika Mel's family. And I connected with them and they said, hey, the person you need to speak to is my aunt Anna, and here's her number. Or, so we connected and she's right now. Shout out to Anne. She's 98 years old. She's still all there, and I just talked to her yesterday, and she just a side note, I was nervous about doing this podcast. I've never done anything like this before, so I was super nervous. And I think you kind of probably guessed my talking to you back and forth, but she was like, Rita, you gotta do this. You're gonna regret it if you don't, so she was encouraging me, go for it. So shout out to her. But she knows family members in Italy, and she connected me with let me think who he was. He was one of the ones that stayed back in Italy, and he was the son of my grandfather Giovanni's sister Maria. I had seen her last name on shipwreck records, referring to some people that were the part of the ship record that says who in Italy, your relative in Italy. And I recognized that name. And so that connected. And his name was Renato Barbieri. He lived in Naples and he was still alive at the time. And she got me connected with him. And he was just so excited because, like, he was one of the people that kind of like, hey, where'd all my cousins go?
Hmm.
Yeah, and he was looking for us as much as I was looking for them. Because you always think the Americans are looking for their Italian cousins, but come to find out, Italian cousins are looking for us as well. That was really neat because I never thought about it that way, you know. So he was like, he only spoke Italian, but he called me and had his little translator. It was before it really got good with Google Translate, and he was older, so it was not something he can do very well. But he'd call me and he would just say something and you go, ciao, ciao, bye, because he couldn't really have you know. So he told me all about, let me see, he told me that my grandfather, which I didn't, my great grandfather was Vincenzo, and he was married to my great grandmother named Anna Monica. I did know that from my records, so that all connected. And then he just mentioned, he told me that Vincenzo's father was Giuseppe, and and that he was married to Elvira. I don't know if I would say Elvira or Elvira Facinelli. And so that started something. And then he said something about Giuseppe being related to the Tortora Breda clan, or it's pronounced Brida,
Hmm.
Brayda, but there's some other spellings of it, like Braida. They were the I'm just going to say it in English, or Marquis, or in French, Marquis of Soleto. Did I say that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Soleto, the Marquis of Soleto. So that was really cool. And so I asked him more, and that's where he ended. That's all he knew because he went to the archives and did that. He wasn't able to find out anything about my grandmother Anna Monaco. He doesn't know why there's no records, and that's very frustrating for me. One is really frustrating to not know about that side. I'm figuring one day it'll happen because things get added on all the time, documents find that you know. So maybe I'll find that. But anyway, um, well, I that whole Torah Breda, if and I'm probably butchering that name, so forgive me, my Tortora cousins. I got online and I find I'm asking about this line on an Italian genealogy website, and this man comes on there and says, "Hey, cousin, the last Baron Tortora of Tortora Breda, the Bel the." I was like, "No way." His name's Carlo, and he's currently, you know, what he is. He's Carlo Tortora Breda di Belvedere. So kind of connected with him. That was really cool. We talk, we still talk online. We've been friends for a long time on Facebook. He even called me and did a video like what we're doing here, just out of the blue, to tell me that he has a whole library of the family name, and he's like the keeper of the documents. It's really cool. And he's trying to, what's it called when you fix the documents so that they're not break anymore, like kind of they're so old. He wants them
Oh, you want to like
to,
with it was yeah, I know what you mean. I can't think of the word either, but I
yeah,
know what you mean. He wants to preserve them or something like
preserve
that. Yeah.
them. Yes, because it's like you have to be so careful with them. So that's really cool. He's a cool guy. I really like him. Shout out to Carlo. So then the Breda family, that's where Giuseppe, who was married to Elvira Giuseppe Campolongo. So his father turned out to be Pasquale Campolongo, who was married to Vincenza Breda Dei de Marchese di Spoleto. That came up on Antonati,
Mhm.
that website. I had discovered that back then, and that's where it opened up. And that's where it just, by using Facebook, the names just came, it just flowed from there. And Facebook has been very helpful in that I didn't even really need the ancestry anymore because I
Yeah.
was finding people through just their research. Yeah, that was really super cool. But a side note about the ancestry that you said about not having DNA, that person that you found through DNA. I found somebody through DNA, and she's a cousin, but she is and this is through DNA, which blows my mind that that's even possible this far back. But my great grandfather Vincenzo's sister's great grandchild, and it's like, whoa, that blows my mind that you can find somebody you could connect and says, "Hey, we're cousins," and it shows on your DNA that far back. DNA is like massively blows my mind. That
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like a little smidge of your DNA can like literally. And then I was able to find. It was like when you go, oh, maybe not. Come on, that's not real. And then you find the connection on your family tree and go, whoa, that blows my mind.
I had a similar thing to you. I had a cousin, same thing. Chinzia's, I think she's a third cousin once removed or something like that. But same thing. She's in Italy. She's a Piomalo. She she was looking on Facebook, thinking she might find cousins in Spain because the family is originally from Spain, or South America. And then I popped up and I said, "Hey," and Pio Malo, there's only one family. There's Pio Malo and Pio Mali, but Pio Mali were
Yeah,
people who worked for the family, whatever. That's the way, that's the way they did that thing. But
like
Pio Malo it's just us. She was like shocked to find that she had, cousins in America. And then we eventually went there and met her, and we've been friends now for, many, many years. But well, she had told me that one of her uncles was doing what Carlo was doing, was everything. He passed away and everything got lost, unfortunately. But through her, I found out that the Piomalos, they had at least 7 homes throughout southern Italy, between Naples, Massa di Soma, Messina, Fossato, and Montebello. And that's what really makes me crazy because nobody said any of this growing up. The only thing I had was that card. My my great grandfather's card. That's all I had. Nobody ever talked about it a lot. My grandmother, my father's mother, passed away when I was like about 10 or so, and she really mostly only spoke Italian. My father, if we went to visit, she would speak in Italian. But when I found the Caracciolo side, which is you know, the really
Oh,
elite of
yes.
the elites,
It's in my family too, not as close as yours.
yeah. And I called my cousin who lived with my grandmother, and I said, Do you know this name, Caracciolo? And she says, Oh, yeah, we called my grandmother Nanny. She says, That's Nanny's, her mother's name. I said, Do you know how famous, do you know what these people were? I said, They were like the elite of the elites in Naples.
So true.
And yeah, and even to today, I mean, it's
Yes, yes. They're still going.
yeah.
They're
Well,
still noble.
and it's such a huge family. I mean, there's thousands and thousands and thousands, and so many different lines. There's probably I think 20 different lines at least of that family. So, and it's the same thing. You have Caracciolo's, and then you have Caracciolo's. Some of the from the noble roots, and some aren't. So, how far back have you been able to go with the
Oh
family now?
boy. One of the most one of the first most interesting things I found, and this is I found on my own, but then it was also confirmed on Carlo Portoro Farida's website. He has a full website, not even like so much a family tree, but a written out beautiful
Hmm.
website of his whole line. And it goes back to Thomas, the let me see, D'Aquino,
Yeah,
Thomas
yeah,
Aquinas.
yeah. I have some Daquinos in my family too.
Yeah, so it turns out that I found out first through books, which I found through Google Books, Italian language books, that said that the niece of Saint Thomas Aquinas was, and I'm butchering this, I know, but Adolina d'Aquino. No, no, wait. Yes, and she was married to Otto or Odo Brida. So he would be like a Steve's great
Hmm.
uncle, so that was super cool. Yeah. And I found a couple more saints in the family. Bonzo di Liguro, another one. It's kind of a little bit farther out, but connected, but farther out, not as close as that on the family tree. And archbishops and lots and lots and just uh, yeah, very lots of Catholic roots there. It seemed like every family had a couple nuns and a couple priests and some military men and kind of like Thomas Aquinas. I read his story, and it made sense. I'm actually related to his older brother, Aimone, Aione, and he was a military man, while Thomas was the youngest son who was supposed to go into the priesthood. But like
Right.
everybody played their role in families, which I find very interesting. You had the ones that, like the daughter who would marry into another noble family. You had a couple nuns that would go to the convent, and just very interesting dynamics. So yes, another, and I'm not, I'm careful about some of the others because I know that whole Miss Aquinas story is I've checked it over and over again. So I got that down. I know that's true. Some of the others maybe more questionable, but after speaking to you, maybe not. That even go back to Rollo, Duke of
Hmm.
Normandy. But one of the things see, your parents say things and they say stories, and you're little and they kind of stick in your head, but you don't really know to ask when you're young. So my dad used to call me the human tape recorder. So I really, I remember stuff, and I remember him saying things about what his father would tell him. And he says that the Campolongos actually came from Normandy. So that would make sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure.
And yes, another thing, you know how you said your family's also from Spain?
Yeah.
Well, that blew my mind too, because that's probably where we connect, because a great great grandparent was Caterina de Cordoba from Spain.
Hmm.
And that was mind blowing. I found somebody on Facebook, a professor, Rinaldi, and he connected. I said, "Oh, hey, do you know one of the names match?" And I said, "Oh, my great great is this person." He sent me the marriage document, and so we connected, and he has a wonderful. He did his book. I don't think he published it like you did, but he sent me a PDF of it with the whole family. So I added a bunch of stuff. So he's super cool. Still in Italy, you know.
So
So I
I
found
was
out.
just looking. I have one Campolongo, ninth great grandmother, Ippolita from
Really? They come from the
let's see.
barons of San Donato.
Yeah, so she
Let me see. I
married
have that here too.
she's married Scipione Sambaesi. So from the
Really?
around 1600.
Yes. She's in my tree, but not connected directly yet because
And
I haven't been able to
that's actually
connect.
through the Piomalo side that I'm connected to her.
Wow, that's wild.
Not through the Caracciolo.
That's wild. I do have her, and I think a man named Roto Campolongo has that genealogy.
Yeah, I don't have her parents though. I have her married, but I don't have her parents.
Her parents were Giacomo or Jacopo
Hmm.
Campolo Barone I'm sorry, I have to open this up. Di
Uh,
Fermo e Lungro. He was a cavalry captain, and his wife was Maria Cice, but I can send that to you. Yeah, I don't know if I connect like I have a connection yet because I stopped at. I know that my family were connected to the barons of San Donato, and there's lots of stuff online. I just don't have the direct connection there. I know it's there, but I still put their information on there because I know that they're related. There's just one like a missing link there. So that's cool.
yeah, yeah. I
That's,
said, let me look. Let me just take a look because there's so many in the tree I don't remember. And
well,
yeah, there
my
she
name
is.
is my husband's name online, so you probably, yeah, didn't think about that.
But yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
So we're probably some sort of cousins or something.
well, I'm telling you, when I saw it, when we've connected, the first thing I told you is you look like
Yeah,
my cousin Neil, who shout out to Neil, still in touch with him. He's in actually he's close to you in Hawthorne.
yeah. How about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, he's a hoot. But not to insult you, I love Italian noses.
Oh, that's
So
okay.
it's
Yeah,
not an insult, but you got my dad's nose.
yeah. We that's one thing we all have.
I do too. Um, yeah, my father can't say I'm not his. Got that nose.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
the
it's really
same
funny.
thing with
One of
me.
the things that my mom was getting, it wasn't quite dementia, but it was from liver disease. It was autoimmune liver disease, and sometimes she would get dementia-like symptoms. And when she was living with me, it's kind of sad, but it's also a little bit funny. She was sitting on the couch, and she looked at me and says, "Rita, baby, for a month I haven't even realized who you were. But then I looked at your nose and I realized, oh,
Uh,
that's my baby."
that's funny.
So, I
That's
mean,
very funny. That's sweet.
it's tragic, but it's also funny
Yeah,
that those
yeah.
things happen.
Yeah, I've found like 23 saints in my direct line, but was when we got to the archives in Naples, they showed me the oldest Caracciolo document that they had from like 1100 something, and it was some kind of land grant from I think the King of France or something like that. And yeah, I was amazed. What I find funny about it is, uh, at least with me, I find two camps, right? One camp is like, that's impossible. You could have never found that out. And the other camp is like, wow, how did you find that out? That's impressive, you know?
Exactly. I have people like very skeptical, and not within the family, but
Right.
naysayers, kind of like oh, be careful who you connect with, or like kind of like I'm 58 years old. I think I know how to handle myself by now. The not just randomly, hook up with some person eh, in the I say hook up in the old-fashioned sense,
Mhm.
not the Gen Z sense. But it's funny because there are a lot of naysayers, and some of it, I dare say, seems like a little jealousy
Yeah.
because I'm not going around thinking I'm noble or
No,
I'm
of
just
course not.
me.
All right.
I
Right.
don't live in a
Right.
mansion or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm just me. I don't know what happened with the line. But here I am, just an average person, uh, getting by like everybody else. So, sometimes there's just a little jealousy, like, yeah, sure, right. But
Yeah.
it
And I,
is, I mean, I really did deep dive.
no, so did I. I mean, I checked and double checked. I mean, and I know I found the records on the Antonati, and there's no question. I know where my great grandmother
Absolutely.
came from. And then when we went there a couple of times, I had a researcher over there look at it. I had a guy over here look at it. So I mean, and then when I found my cousins, Cinzia, and then there's one from the Caracciolo side, Carlo Rosso. It's all confirmed. I mean, I know. And then people say, "Well, how'd you get back that far?" I said, "Well, once I made the connection, I just went on to the Libradoro, and it's all documented." I said, "It was once I got to that point, it was pretty simple finding the family going back 1,000 years."
Yep. Then it just flows from there. It's still hard, and you still have to, I mean, we put a lot of effort into it. It didn't just happen.
No, right? No, yes,
And this is well, it's 2025 and I started in 2007. I mean, and I'm just it's a little bit of an obsession for me and I do get in trouble with some family members, because I'm annoying and you don't want to dig up things they don't want to know about, because you can do that. But so I try to be super careful, what I share about, you know, family lines and stuff. So there is that aspect of some of the closer generations. You don't want to pull up anything that
yeah.
offends somebody or why'd you bring that up or you know what I mean? Some
I
skeleton in a closet or something like that.
I found some crazy stuff about my ancestors. I mean, from the king of Naples who had the Last Supper of the stuffed people, and there was another. I forget which line it is. There's another line where for 5 generations, they were the quote unquote justices, which when I looked into it, found out they were basically the people who condemned everybody to death. And
Yeah,
it was,
then you got the Inquisition. I mean, and the
yeah,
way
no,
we are
but,
today, you don't want to really share those things.
well, what I love is like people would say, whatever period in history, I would have never done that. And I tell them, I said, you don't know what you would have done or what you wouldn't have done when you were in that
I think there's
position.
a phrase for that, like a phrase for it. I can't remember what it is. My memory's not so great anymore, but yeah, phrase for looking at history through the eyes of today,
Yeah, yeah,
the standards of today. It's like you don't know what you would do.
right. I mean, if whether you were born into a peasant family, you were born into a noble family, I mean, if you were born into a noble family, you're going to do what noble families do.
Yeah, it's you do what your parents tell you.
Exactly. Exactly. And, I always use this analogy because my mother's mother, they were, peasant farmers. And she was very, very, I mean, she was very, very large, very, very, both in stature and in, presence.
Larger than life.
Yeah. But my father's mother was very, very reserved. And it wasn't until I started doing it and realizing, well, she was brought up that way. That's the way she was brought up. She was brought up to be reserved. I don't think by the time I got to her, I don't think they were wealthy, but they were well off. I mean, you could see from the
Yeah, well
the
to do.
clothes
Yeah,
that we have, the clothes, the pictures, the clothes she was wearing. But it's like, and I never realized it when I was a kid. Now I understand. That's the way she was brought up to be that way.
yeah. We can't judge people from the past like that.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So now have you been back to the hometowns?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I couldn't go to Naples, but last spring I went to on a I'm gonna do a free commercial solo tour.
Hmm.
Only because I was afraid of being in another country without a, the whole tour experience. But I really haven't set to go back and just go without a tour and go straight to Naples and do the whole what you did and go to the archives and stuff. But I did go to the Amalfi Coast. But the funny thing is, and I went to Rome and Sorrento and that island off of there. Well, the whole that area,
Yeah, yeah, the whole
the Blue
Bay of
Grotto and
Naples
all
thing.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole Nape, yeah. But it was absolutely beautiful. We stayed in a hotel that used to be a convent. My knees were killing me because of the hills and the rocks and we I went to Pompeii. So I did this all with son John. It was his kind of his graduation gift from high school. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, it was awesome. But when I was there, we went to a place, gosh, I wish in Ravello, sorry if I'm butchering. And I was like, why are we here? I mean, but the tour guide said this is like, real beautiful place and it's very famous and like, okay. It wasn't until I got home I find out my family
Oh,
is part of,
from the.
like they had these major roots in Sorrento,
Hmm.
but I hadn't deep dived into that aspect of where they were from until I got home and I'm like, darn, I got the pictures and everything and I appreciated it all, but now it makes all so much more sense. It's like they lived there, but
Well,
like
all the more
their
reason to go
spirits
back.
were there. So their spirits were there, I mean, they were right there. And I didn't know it. The Ruffalos and the Russos and the Rufos actually, uh, and it was the Villa de Ruffalo that we went to, and got some great pictures of it. But I didn't know why we were there, and now I really, oh my God, my family were patricians in that town and built churches there, like had churches built, and so I was like, wow, this is amazing. So I always thought it was just Naples and Avellino.
Well, the thing is, and I learned this. It took me a while to learn this. They didn't live in the towns that there were their fiefdoms. They lived in Naples. All the nobility lived in Naples, and then they
Oh,
would
I didn't know that.
travel. Yeah, so they would travel. I mean, they would have homes like my grandmother's great grandparents and stuff. They had homes in the town, like Capocota for the Capici Piccicelli and Pirmalo, and then in Calabria. But they would only go there maybe once a year to collect the taxes. The other thing was the nobles didn't pay taxes. They collected taxes, but they didn't pay
That's
taxes.
probably why they were hated.
Probably. Although, when we were there, especially in Avellino, when I asked them about it, I said, "Why are they being so nice to me?" The Noah. And they said, "Oh, well, you have to understand, the nobles were for hundreds of years, up until 1860, everything revolved around the nobility. They built the churches, they supported the churches, they provided the farmland, they provided the industry, they did all this stuff. Uh, so they told me we don't forget what they did, and so they weren't all bad. They weren't all bad.
Yeah, I just you hear about like, when the nobles are turned on in times of uh,
Yeah, yeah, and they didn't even with the unification, they never really turned on the nobles. They kind of integrated with stuff with them. So it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't like France. It wasn't. You
oh,
know.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it wasn't like that. They didn't like just go around killing the nobility and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, that surprised me because I never realized that. So that's why, like my grandmother's, the Caracciolos basically were in the city itself in Naples.
What do you happen to know you know how it says quartiere, the quarter that they're
Yeah,
town, or do you know like the most recent town they lived, like, or quarter?
yeah. Well, It's just before they came, my grandmother and my grandfather lived in Turcola, which is about, I guess, half hour by car from Naples. Still part of Naples, considered part of Naples. There's another place right next to that called Massa di Soma, which is where the Piramalos had one of their houses or, you know, small palace, whatever you want to call it. The Caracciolos lived right in the heart, right in the city, right by the Duomo, not far from the Hotel Caracciolo was one of the palaces for the family.
Like one of the names, quarters, or I'm calling it a quarter, but I don't know what quartiere is, like a
Yeah,
hamlet.
Quartiere is a quarter. Yeah,
Avocado or avocata?
yeah,
Yeah, that's
that.
one of them. San Ferdinando.
Yeah, San Fernando. I forget all of them, and there's more. I think there's more than four quarters. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
I don't know how they did the naming things, but my
Oh, is that why they call it a quarter? Because there's four of them?
yeah,
Oh, never
Quartiere.
thought about that.
But my grandmother, my great grandmother was she was born and she passed away on Via Carbonata, right in the heart of the old part of Naples. Um, and again, there's a if you look up the Via Carbonata near the Church of San Giovanni, I think it's San Giovanni. There's like an apartment kind of building type of thing. You ever see these apartments where there's like a bunch of different doors? It's like
Hmm.
one building with a bunch of different doors. And she was born in one and passed away in another. But the whole family was either born or died in this building, 150 years or something like that. So what I think happened was my great grandmother's grandfather was a prince. And they must have had this building so people in the family would come and go when they needed a place to live, you know? Some were born there, some died there. Really pretty interesting to know that this one building with all of these separate apartments were owned by the Caracciolo family.
Yeah, I like using Google Earth to be a
Yeah.
fly on the wall and actually see these buildings, and like, it's really cool.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
internet can be very cool that way.
If you Google the Hotel Caracciolo in Naples and then go across the street, you'll see the building that I'm talking about. You'll see what it looks like. And she was only 42 when she passed away. I don't know from what. I know my grandmother's youngest brother was born in 1901 and her mother died in 1902. I don't know if, complications from the birth or something else
Very
happened.
possible, especially in your 40s.
Yeah, yeah. And it was right, maybe 6 months after the son was born, she passed away.
I see that a lot in the records that uh I one of the kind of sad things I see is we don't see, I don't think we see as much death as they did.
No.
And they had big families, but they also lost a lot. And you see so many records of children that, 1 year old or 5 years old, or that you look and then there's a death record later. So they saw a lot of, you know,
Well,
they did have big families, but they had a lot of loss as well.
my mother's uncle Dominic, he was the fifth one. There were four passed away before him, all
Yeah.
Dominics from the same
That's
parents.
all the same name, yeah. And that's on both sides of my family. My mom's from Puerto Rico, and I
My wife's
her
family,
gene.
my wife's father's from Puerto Rico.
Oh, well, see. So yeah, so I see that in the genealogy records, and I'm a religious person, and I feel like, some of it's like by doing this genealogy, it's like giving back a little,
Mm,
like recognizing people that are forgotten means a lot to me. Just feels
yeah.
good to me.
Where in
That,
Puerto Rico is the family from?
well, they were originally from Jauco. It's spelled Yauco. It's a
Mhm.
big coffee town, and my mom was born in Ponce.
Oh, yeah, well, that's my wife's family wasn't from there. Her sister lives there. Her sister still lives there. She lives in Aguadilla, by
Ah,
Maya
yeah,
Gres.
my
Um,
my neighbor. is from there.
And her grandfather, uh, and great-grandfather, they owned coffee plantations in Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. Yeah, I was able to trace her grandmother back to Spain, back into the, like, 1500s, because obviously to own plantations back in the 1700s, early 1800s, you had to get something from the King of Spain to be able to do that in the first
Yeah,
place.
uh, there was a, I forgot what it's called. There goes my memory again. Corsicans came over under um, some decree by Spain that say we'll give you land and everything.
Mm.
Go over to these colonies.
I I don't know if they still owned it. They did still own a piece of land, but nobody could agree what to do with it, to sell it, keep it, whatever. But it was really
It's
nice. It was up
very
on the mountains
difficult,
and
I
stuff.
heard. We have land out there. Well, my cousins, after their families died, after my grandma passed away, it's hard to sell the land. It's like a complicated thing back and forth. So yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. It's
but my grandmother had a home there, before. So yeah, they were farm workers. That's come up with ancestry, and I was able to go fairly far back with them with more records online. But yeah, my parents met in the Bronx, and they kind of had a little bit of a West Side story.
I think that's the way Marion's parents were too, the same thing.
Yeah, it was a little West Side Story love story, you know. So that was
Yeah,
sweet.
um her mother grew up in Little Italy, and her father, they lived in Spanish Harlem then, and that's where she was born, up in Spanish Harlem, which I never realized. I didn't realize. I should have, growing up in New York, knowing that that was a big Italian enclave, but I didn't until just not that long ago. But it was I think a similar kind of thing. Her father was Puerto Rican, her mother was Sicilian, or and I think they met. Um,
So that's
they
basically
both
me.
they both worked in they were both like seamstresses or tailors, whatever you want to call them. I think that's where they met.
Yeah, when my mom came to New York, in 1959 or 1960, I think it was 1960, from Puerto Rico, they worked in the garment district
Yeah.
sewing. She said she sewed the tags on suits, the fancy men's suits, very high-end suits in the garment district, but she just sewed that one thing on and she told the story that the guy who played the Joker, Cesar Romero,
Hmm.
came to get his suit, and all the girls were just, oh,
It's
only us
great.
old people know who.
Yeah, well, yeah. Nobody else will know who Cesar Romero is.
Yeah.
That's too funny.
So yeah, I really miss my mom. About the Avellino side, they were the Guarino. My grandmother was Antonetta Guarino, but I was told very abruptly or very forcefully by my cousin in Italy that came to visit. Well, no, not my cousin, my aunt's sister. Uh, well, um,
Yes, right. Yeah,
yeah, but it's either O or I. It
yeah,
goes both ways. Oh, so that I found some interesting things. A lot of artists. My father's cousin Mario was an artist and the president or professor, president of a couple art schools in Italy. Which I'm an artist. I wish that my father had sent me there to
mm,
go to art school, but I guess he was overprotective of that, sending me away. But yeah, that's an interesting family. Carlo, I think it was Carlo Razzo. Did I say his name right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm have him on my Facebook page too, and he was talking about Francesco Guarini, the painter, and he was from Solofra. Did I say that right? I'm just gonna say it. I'm
I wouldn't
terrible.
know myself, so
Like I thought Caracciolo was Caracciolo
I used to say it like that
until you said
until I got
it.
straightened out. Yeah,
Yeah, until I got straightened out. So I'm gonna mess it up. But from Solofra, Italy, which is what it's in that Avellino, right?
mm,
It's near their Modena. Well, no,
No, that's
it's still for
more than
Italy,
this.
but it's not far. And it turns out the Guarinis were from there, from my research. They moved to Avellino, but they were from Solafra. And so I told him that. He put a big smiling face. I said,
Oh,
"Oh
good.
yeah, my grandmother Antonetta Guarino, her family originates from Solafra, and there's a chapel with Francesco's Guarini's paintings and stuff like that. So yeah, he's been a real. I love the stuff he posts,
Yeah, yeah. No, he's great. He posts some really neat
and he's
stuff.
related to you.
Yeah, he's related through the Caracciolo side. He's closer to the princes than I am. His
So he's currently like still kind of on the.
well, he's because he's Rasso, he's not entitled to anything, of course. But we both go back to our direct link is Prince Luigi, and that's my third great grandfather, and I want to say maybe his second great grandfather. He
Oh, well,
descends
that's fairly
directly.
close.
He descends directly from I think the sixth prince, fifth or sixth prince, and I descend from the fourth prince. But yeah, we're both from that, and he had sent me a hand drawn chart, with our direct. So that's
I
again,
think
that's how another.
I think I saw your post of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was just another confirmation of, that I'm right.
Yeah, I know, like what we're talking about the naysayers. Um, they don't always realize that, we're constantly checking because we
Yeah,
have our own, we want to be sure, we want to be 100% sure too. So I kept constantly diving into old books that are written in Italian by Carlo Lelis. Like I think I have one. Actually, it's right under my computer because I lifted my computer to be a better angle. Like this one, Carlo Lelis, Discorsi, Familia, that thing. So I got that printed on demand and it has the Breda family in here and all these
hmm
families. But as you can see, I always mark where I'm related. So yeah, that's been amazing. That print on demand has been great for those old Italian books that you can't
yeah,
get the
yeah.
actual. Yeah, so that's been, I mean, that's been amazing. And I deep dive into that, and my husband says, "Oh, I always know you're on your genealogy when I hear tick, 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 YouTube videos or TV, and I'm over there like deep diving. And I just
Well,
constantly recheck."
that's my wife. She's always asking me if I'm looking for dead relatives again.
Yeah, yeah, it's like you're being annoying again. You're digging up, you're looking at, my father used to call it looking under stone.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. That makes sense.
But my
Well,
husband's family is from Mexico. He was born in California, and his his mother was born in Arizona, and his grandmother was born in Texas. So he's actually more American than I am. Um, but because I'm like second generation, my father was first generation, and
mm,
this is crazy. But I double check. I'm getting pretty sure it's all pretty accurate. We turn out to be 16 cousins in Spain because of that
yeah.
line. But we also have the Mendozas. They call it in Spain it's the Mendozas, I guess, with two Z's instead of one. A relative of mine is a Giovanna Mendoza, and they were the Duke of the Infantata.
hmm Yeah.
That was neat. And I find it interesting that you found your Spanish roots because we all think, okay, we all come from Italy and that's it. But when I went into it, it's like, oh my gosh, the Guarinis have Norman French roots. The
hmm
Campolongos have Norman French roots. The Monacos have French. Then they go into Spain. The Bridas are from Spain. Um,
Well, so many, so
amazing.
many, so many people conquered Italy. It's just, just
Yeah,
natural. I mean,
exactly. Yeah, everybody's mixed,
I
you
mean,
know?
I've run into people who do their DNA and they freak out because they find out that they have Greek or something like that. And I'm 100% Italian. I'm like, well, you're not, but that's fine.
Well, that's what I used to think I was 50%. That's just flat out
Yeah.
50%. But, come to find out, I do my mom's Puerto Rican roots, and her she has a mixture of things I didn't know,
Yep.
you know, even some Italian in there. You just go, oh, it's mind blowing, but everybody's mixed, and that's what it really comes down to. Places have
Yeah.
conquered each other over, thousands of years, and we're kind of a little narcissistic to think that, it's that and dry,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Well, Rita, this has been a lot of fun. I appreciate you taking the time.